Now that we've got a week under our belt of spring practice, who could excel? Who could be the story coming out of spring camp?
Freezing temperatures are likely for several hours inland and a few hours closer to the coast.
Yes.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joining me as he does every single Wednesday as we celebrate War Rapport Wednesday, Mike G of the War Rapport. It was a tease. His first week of spring practice rolls around, Mike G, and then all the kids go off to spring break. I forgot spring break was even a thing. And so now we're just sitting here. We're like, okay, well, spring will continue. We'll get more football in a moment. But I think it'd be fun to take this time with us together as we talk about this football program, and we'll talk about basketball in a bit. But, all right, we've got some data. And I think some things you can put stock into and some things you can't. It's the first week, brand new coaching staff. It's the first week of spring practice. I mean, there's a lot of factors here that I think it's easy to dismiss. But still, with the information that we have, who are now some winners that we can kind of project over the course of the next few weeks for the remainder of spring practice? And I think we talked about a big one going into spring was Holden Geriner. He will not be on my list today, Mike G. I think the biggest one, and I just want your raw reaction. You do not know where I'm going with this. I think Kayin Lee has a chance to be the winner of spring practice.
Okay. I like that one. I like that pick. A lot of these guys, these young guys have a chance in a new system. When there's a new coaching staff, Zach, there's an opportunity to just kind of reset. I'm not saying anything you did before doesn't matter. But certainly it matters more what you do going forward. And so Ken definitely has an opportunity to make a big jump here. How are we doing this? Are you doing one and I'm doing one?
Yeah, we'll just talk about Kayin for a second and why. I mean, I think the battle opposite DJ James is very interesting. And I don't know how this staff is going to like Nehemiah Pritchett. I was asked this on another show, like, could Nehemiah Pritchett be the guy that's like takes the biggest step? Like, I don't think Nehemiah Pritchett's as bad as most people do. I think he was used poorly. I don't think he was used like in a way to like exercise his skills and exercise his talents. I think he's a bump and run dude who is really, really fast. He talked about that. You guys asked like every player over the summer, like who the fastest player that was. And almost all of them said Nehemiah. Right. And I don't know, like if playing him off ball was really the way to do that. Mike G, I think you put fast guys on the line and bump them. And so we'll see. But man, every time I talk to somebody that is at the entire practice, apparently these coaches just rave about Kayin Lee. And I think that's very, very exciting. I think we've seen Hugh Freeze be loyal to his guys. And as far as the cornerback room, the only guy he's brought in right now is Kayin Lee. And I just think there's a really solid chance that he could be the winner when it's all said and done and be a starting corner as a freshman in the SEC.
Yeah, apparently Kayin is staying off Hugh Freeze's infamous list as well, too. I've heard that. I've done some digging. I've done some investigative digging on these lists and who's on these lists. And I can tell you Kayin Lee is not on it. So right now, Hugh Freeze is trying to manage a lot of things, for Zach. As a first-year head coach in the SEC for the second time. And Kayin Lee is just one of these kids that's out there doing – he reminds me, in terms of work ethic, he reminds me a lot of Jay Fair, just on the defensive side of the ball. Smart kid, does what he's asked. Again, never going to pop up on a list. The only list he's going to pop up on is hardest worker or some records. Yeah, some record set in the weight room for something, right? Like, those are the only lists he's popping up on. So it's going to be interesting to see how a freshman does, because you got to remember there were some pretty highly touted defensive backs that came in under Harsin. Austin Osbury was a big one that came in, and for Kayin Lee to come in and jump some of these guys, I just think it would be interesting.
I do too, especially with his size, right? I mean, there was a lot of question on can he play outside corner. The staff seems to think so. And I do kind of wonder, like, long term, is that where he's at? And I think if he starts there as a true freshman, it's probably where he's going to be for the bulk of his career. But I'm just thinking about the way Ron Roberts uses guys. And I think there's going to be a mixture of bump and run and playing off ball. I think Kayin Lee can do both. But with the whole like havoc rating, you in theory make quarterbacks uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable, you make more mistakes. You're not as accurate. And I think Kayin Lee's ball skills, we saw this in the high school all-star game and in the practices. He's so good at playing the ball when it's in the air and acting on it at its highest point. And like, I love Nehemiah Pritchett. I really do.
He didn't get his head around.
He doesn't do. Yeah, that's not his strength.
He doesn't get his head around.
Is getting on the line of scrimmage and just making the receiver uncomfortable and hopefully taking him out of the play. Like that, and you hope that you've done enough. But if a well-thrown ball is there, I just trust that he's going to make the play on the ball. DJ, yes, I think that's going to happen. Kayin Lee is a true freshman? Maybe. I mean, everything we hear about this guy is how special he is. So I think that's a dude I'd almost rather have on the field.
Yeah, listen, those ball skills translate to turnovers. They translate to interceptions.
Say it again.
They translate to turnovers. They translate to interceptions, and they translate to turnover on downs. They translate to punts. Yeah. They translate to your offense getting the ball back. And how many times did we see an Auburn defensive back in position to make a play, but he just couldn't get his head around? And so, they're getting mossed, and guys are catching balls over them because they just can't. They no instinct when the ball is in the air. Right. So, let me not say no instinct, Zach, but let's be real. Interceptions has been a statistical category on defense that has waned at Auburn over the last
turnovers in general.
Yeah, it's been hard. Right. So they have definitely not been leading the league in that. And so it's time for them. It's time for them to kind of step it up in that area. If this kid has the ball skills that you're hearing. Now, we've only seen one practice, and we didn't see much when we went out there. And you got to be. I'm always wary of the spring warriors, the guy that we hear like, oh, this guy's going to be the next thing. And we hear it all spring, and then fall comes in. They go with the experience over the talent. So this is a big thing, I think, that you're hearing about this kid, because this is probably, to me, not probably, this is the most experienced position group. And I think the most talented position group on this team right now. For a freshman to come in and take a spot,
corner or DB? Because corner, there's really only 4 of them.
Yeah, man, but they're a great group.
They're very good.
But they're a great group, though.
And we're talking about, like, let's just have some perspective on this. You're 100% right. Like, JD Rim is probably the 4th corner on this team.
And he's so good.
He's so good. Small sample size, different scheme, but we heard nothing but how incredible he was last fall. And it's in theory, it's a scheme that should help him more with everything. So yeah, that's a great situation to be in.
Yeah, Keontae Scott and DJ James are the best DBs on this team, right? Let's be real, right? They're going to be stars in this league. I'd be shocked if one, if not both of them, are not all SEC by the end of the season, right? I think Keontae Scott has a chance to make some pre-SEC. Some preseason list as far as all SEC is concerned as well, too, based on what he did last year. So, Kayin Lee, how does he fit into that? We'll see.
Yeah. Another DB, I'll give you my other one. Craig McDonald appears to be taking a lot of starting safety.
The Iowa State guy. Okay. All right.
And he's
not fast.
You just talk to folks like, all right, well, who's playing with who? And it's like, he seems to be playing with the starters a lot. And once again, like rotation early in spring, how much stock can you put in it? But I think that's interesting because we all loved his ability coming from Iowa State. We loved it. And I talked about, we ranked the transfers multiple times last offseason, and it's like, yes, he's my guy. Like, he is my number one dude.
Right.
And he never really played. It sounds like he was battling an injury in fall camp and just wasn't 100% and never really kind of got fully into the rotation. And then the season just kind of happened. And God forbid you sub guys out on defense last year. It's just, they just didn't do it. And so him being a dude back there at safety, I'm pleasantly surprised that I'm hearing his name when I talk to folks at practice.
Yeah, this was supposed to be an experience piece, right? That they brought in from Iowa State, I believe it was. So he's one of the older guys in the secondary, comparatively speaking to the kids that we have. And, a wise man once said, Zach, that old McDonald had a farm. And he is on the plains. So I think he has a chance to do well just because of that dad joke I just told.
Do you think he could possibly harvest some interceptions and some turnovers?
I think so. I think he might be able to harvest the crop of interceptions, possibly from the safety position. I'm going to stop being ridiculous. But no.
The dislikes are just piling up on this video.
I can't wait to see the comments on this. So I thought I would steal your thunder there on the dad joke.
Oh, you nailed it. I didn't see that coming. See that coming. Well done.
If you thought it was an actual wise man, I apologize. Anyway, listen, this guy is, to me, it will be an experience. Is it going to be an experience over, talent deal? And which direction does this staff go? Because I'll tell you what, Harsin definitely, his staff went the experience route, I feel like, at a lot of positions. And I think that they didn't always get the most talented guys on the field. And I don't think they did that. And Hugh Freeze, I think, will have more of a balance when it comes to that. That's the impression that I'm getting. So yes, there will be some guys who will bring experience, and they'll be incumbents, and they'll lean on that on-field experience, because you need guys who can be field generals in that regard, right? But is Craig McDonald one of those guys who's just kind of been in the system? Injuries held him back, but he gets on there, and it's a guy nobody's talking about, but he comes in and it's just mature and dependable and solid. I mean, that's how I see Craig McDonald.
Yeah. All right. So after a week of data, limited data, comment on the YouTube video down below who you think the winner this spring could be, or let us know in the Locked On Auburn Discord, social media, whatever it may be. Mike G, I want to get your thoughts. Who do you think now, with a week full of data and information, conversations, we've gotten to watch some practice, who do you think could be the winner of spring? But first, our friends at FanDuel, they've got a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 going on right now. Mike G, it's probably the best sporting event of the year to bet on. With March Madness, and of course conference tournaments starting tonight. Be sure to get in on the action with FanDuel. And look, if you miss on that first bet, there's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. So there's no reason not to do it. Head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, the NFL, and the Locked On Podcast Network. Mike G.
Zach, before you go, yes? I'm gonna throw to your sponsor bone here, and I will tell you, I have a quick FanDuel story. Last NBA season, I put together a 20-leg parlay.
20
leg.
Okay.
For basketball. And the last leg was Draymond Green, 8 points or more. And he played like a jerk the whole game and fouled out in the fourth quarter with 6 points. And I was so upset. The payout was $20,000. 20 grand.
So what I'm hearing is Draymond lost you $20,000.
I root against him in all things in life now because of that. But it was fun to watch. I screenshot it because I was like, nobody will believe that I ever put this parlay together, and it came up like 2 points short of winning.
Unbelievable.
Well,
unbelievable.
Yeah. So sign up for FanDuel.
Yeah, FanDuel. Yeah, they're good folks. They're good folks. All right, we got a week of data now with spring practice. Who do you think could potentially win spring? Who's a winner a month from now when we talk about these next few weeks?
Well, Zach, I'm so happy you asked, because for me, right now, listen, old McDonald had a farm. Those farms have gardeners. So I'm going with Nick Mardner. Come on, man. Nick Mardner has to be he could be a huge winner this spring.
No, that's a great answer.
Practice. Right now, at the open practice, that second joke just didn't hit right. I'm going to work on that in the offseason.
No, it hurt. I mean, that's the goal. It's like I felt physical pain from that. Well done. Well done.
Nick Mardner passed us. I think you were standing by me, actually. in the open practice. And I was like, whoa, like this is a big kid. And I kept thinking to myself, with some of the accuracy problems the quarterbacks have had, how awesome would it be to have a receiver that can just go up and get anything thrown within 3 yards of him? That is that's the impression I got from Nick Mardner, not just in observing him, his size, but also in the drills that he was in. He was just kind of with ease. He's got great body control. Right. So for a big guy, he jumped for some balls, and just the body control in the air was impressive. I think we saw Camden Brown display some impressive body control at times last year, jumping up to get balls. Nick Mardner gives me that impression. Then what did Hugh Freeze? There was a question asked of Hugh Freeze right after that practice about catch radius in our league, and he says,
"Didn't you ask that?
No,
you asked. I thought you asked that. Okay.
And
because it's actually about football. You're like the only one who actually asks questions about football.
You want to know about Hugh Freeze's shopping list? So I was like, I thought it was interesting, and he gave a very comprehensive answer to that question about catch radius and why he thinks it's important in this league. Now, think through the history of college football about receivers with quarterbacks that were just okay, but their receivers just kind of went up and caught everything around them.
Right.
So they didn't have to be accurate. I mean, does anybody, I might date myself a little bit with some of our listeners, but if you remember Kellen Winslow catching passes from Ken Dorsey at Miami, or Santana Moss, or these guys who just would go up and catch. Ken Dorsey was probably one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the history of college football. But he had great receivers that could go up and just catch anything that was thrown their way. And I think Oklahoma has experienced a lot of that with just having great receivers and average quarterbacks that are putting up Heisman numbers. Jason White, man, was he not one of the most overrated Heisman winners in history? But he played with some great receivers, and they had great running backs, obviously, during his time there. I'm just thinking Nick Mardner has a chance to be a guy for Robbie Ashford or TJ Finley or Holden Gariner or whoever comes in the transfer portal, whether it's McCall or whoever. Sawyer Pate at this point, according to Hugh. Hey, all the reps are even, baby, right? So Sawyer has a shot. He has a chance to be the ultimate safety net for the quarterback position this year. And all eyes are going to be on quarterback. Believe me. Now, we asked a question on the War Rapport about whether this team can be good without good quarterback play. Right. The guys all argue with me saying, of course there's a route to being good without good quarterback play. And I'm just like,
there's not.
No.
Well, it depends what good is.
Yeah, not this team.
I think you can win. I think you can go 7-5 with average quarterback play. But I don't think, like, most people want better than that. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and this is something that I would like to see debated in the comments of this video, Zach, about quarterback play and what level of quarterback play will be required. Or what level of improved passing game is going to be required for this team to find success. And I define success as 7 wins or more. 7 wins or more, right?
So 7-5 successful?
Correct. Yeah. Listen, in year one.
Context matters. Sure.
5-7 with complete dysfunction all season and barely throwing the ball. Like everybody knew over the last 4 games, Auburn's going to run it like 50 times.
Right.
And they still found a way to squeak out a win against an SEC opponent. They gave Bama all they wanted, right?
Yeah, like, Mississippi State too. Sure,
Mississippi State to overtime.
But on the other side of that, like, you've got Missouri, right? So I mean, it all kind of washes out.
So somehow came out with the W there. So all I'm saying is that I do not think for this team, in the makeup of this team, and we'll see what the O-line does. But like, I don't think for this team there's a route to 8 wins without improved quarterback play. And significantly so, because 50%, when I say significant, I mean 50% to low 60s is significant improvement, right? Because that's about where Auburn was at, 50% completion percentage for both quarterbacks, for anybody who touched the field at quarterback. Mm-hmm. So, the receivers are going to play a big role in that. They've got to go out and they've got to catch those those balls, those 50-50 balls for these quarterbacks, because they're going to need that help. I think Nick Mardner has a chance to be a huge winner this spring with his size and his catch radius if he becomes a different type of playmaker. Maybe not a burner, Zach, but a good possession receiver that can go over the middle, catch a fade down the sideline, a comeback route to the back shoulder. Come on, man. This guy can be a star here.
The success that we saw him have at Cincinnati, I mean, he kind of got behind defenses. So we'll see if he can do that.
Hey, let's see
here. No doubt about it. All right, let's talk a little hoopy hoops action as the SEC tournament begins tonight. Of course, Auburn won't play until tomorrow, but how far can Auburn go in the SEC tournament? We share our thoughts in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Be sure to join the Locked On Auburn Discord, over 1,700 Auburn fans strong, always chatting about Auburn football, basketball, baseball, recruiting, whatever it may be. There's always stuff going on in there. It's free. All you have to do is click the link in the episode description down below. Mike G, Auburn with a definitive statement win against Tennessee this past weekend. There's some positive momentum. And really, when you look at the last week of the season with the almost win against Alabama and then how they played against Tennessee, it's like they really are peaking. Like, it's just one win. Like, since the Tennessee loss, they've got the best 3-point percentage in the SEC. Like, there's a lot of good things about this team that are trending in the right direction. It's just guard play wins in March, and that's just the biggest. I think that's the biggest inconsistency when you look at this team. The upside's great. Wendell popping, KD popping. As Zep can score and be efficient. He's so good defensively. He can limit the opposing guard play. But it's just, can you do it for more than one game in a row? That's my biggest question.
Yeah, listen, I think that Auburn has a chance to actually win the SEC tournament. Now, I may be going full book here, but hear me out. With the way that they've played and with the middle of the league kind of catching up to the top of the league a little bit this year, with 8 teams now projected to make the tournament. I think to your point about guard play, if Wendell Green scores, this is going to be a really tough team to beat. If he goes 2 for 14, what we're going to see is one of those heartbreaking almost wins.
Sure.
That has become just a symptom of play for them. But if he goes 8 for 14 and 6 for 6 from the free throw line like he did against Tennessee, good luck. I mean, this is not a team anybody wants to see if he's playing like that. But consistency, to your point, is going to be the key for them. Now, Auburn has had a bad habit this year of playing up and down to competition. Doesn't matter how good or bad the team is, right? This team lost to Georgia this year. Lost the 13 seed in this SEC tournament. And they also took the number one team in the country. I think Bama's the number one team in the country in my book. To overtime. And it was nowhere near a blowout the first time either. I mean, they led a lot in that game. The first matchup. So you're not telling me that this team has no shot to make a run in March, because here's the thing. Everybody's concentrated on what Auburn will do on the court. But, tournament time is about getting hot at the right time. Me personally, I think that Bama may have blown their load a little early. And this one.
Maybe.
Right. And I could see this being a second round exit for Bama, because they go there's something about shooting teams that you can get. Shooting teams can get loose streaks at the wrong time, and some team comes in and they muck it up and they play defense. And if the refs are calling the games fairly, Zach, hear me on this one. Bruce Pearl finally said, "Screw it," and called out the refs about calling the games fairly. And we had a fairly evenly called game against Tennessee, and Auburn, to me, controlled that game from start to finish. I think they have a chance to do that in the tournament if it's going to be called like we saw that Tennessee game. So I think they have a chance to take the SEC tournament. I don't like that they might have to go through Kentucky. That's the team that scares me right now. They're playing good basketball at the right time. So we'll see.
As far as the NCAA tournament, Joe Lunardi currently has Auburn as a 9 seed playing in Sacramento in the West bracket against Florida Atlantic as the 8-9 matchup, and the winner taking on UCLA. But But
Yikes.
I think
Possible
they're
one
like,
seed?
yeah,
So they want to play one seed in the second
that's the
round?
downside of being an 8 or a 9 seed is if you win, you play the 1 seed. So that's kind of wild. But I think UCLA is beatable. I think they just recently lost a guard, so that actually may be a good draw. And then you would be in a situation where you probably play Virginia, which that'd be fun.
Right.
Get a little revenge action. Maybe they'll call a double dribble this time.
After Tennessee, Zach, after covered that game, I was walking to my car and I ran into Bruce Pearl. Right, he was in a great mood, and he gave me some nutrition advice. He said, "Hey, Mike, it's a great day out. Get that vitamin D." He screamed this. He screamed this at me through a gate, right? And he was in such a good mood after the win, right? And in my head, I'm like, "Hey, coach, get you some vitamin W, right? Dubs, baby, wins."
Did you yell that at him?
No.
Did you yell that at him?
Yeah, I thought about it after. I was like, "Missed opportunity, Mike. Missed opportunity."
He would have loved that. Yeah. Do you think Bruce Pearl's telling people like, so after the game, I saw Mike G. He was feeling good because we just won, and I yelled at him because I just love him so much. That's probably what he's telling people.
Oh my goodness. The mood after the game for these guys, that win, I think was big for them psychologically. And that was the point of kind of telling that story. He's talked about how the team has been tired, about how much they've had to go up against. And you know, I don't think there's a player on this team that takes it harder when they lose than Wendell Green.
Sure.
I don't think there's a player that takes it harder. This kid puts his heart and his soul out in the court. And I don't care how good or bad he's shooting. He leaves it. He leaves it. He never quit. He leaves it all on the court. And so to see them, the mood, the rare mood they were in, and don't underestimate. This was senior night, right? This might be some of them their last game in Neville, right?
It was
in their home court. Now,
well, the only chance they would play another one is if they would have done the NIT thing. But the win makes them a tournament team.
Well, Bruce was. He's campaigning for some COVID years, definitely for this team. You know how last year it was like Walker and Jabari are gone. We're not even talking about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that same energy with this team. And, you know, there's a lot of experience that could potentially return. So making the tournament is huge. I don't care how deep people or not deep people think that Auburn can or will not go in this tournament. The extra games for these guys, if they decide to return, will make Auburn a force next year in college basketball. I promise you, because you know what did we hear last year when they got beat by Miami? Wasn't they were just a more experienced. They were a senior laden team, senior and juniors going up against a really young team. And
I don't think a lot of these guys are coming back though. I think Allen's gone. Chance? I think Chris Moore's gone. I think Jaylin comes back.
Okay.
And then I think the guard situation is going to be really interesting.
You think Broom comes back?
Yes.
Okay, because to me, it's Jaylin, Broom, Wendell. You know, I don't think there's any chance that Wendell goes. But, you know, Broom, let's see if he, you know, what kind of advice he gets if he tests it. I would like to see him come back. You know, Bruce Pearl is in the unique position that he has to replace his best player every year. This could be the first year he's not replacing his best player, which to me right now is Jaylin Williams.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's either him or Janai. But I think most nights it's Jaylin, and I think they'll both come back. So I'm with you, Mike G. How can people love you, give you some love, listen to you, watch you, whatever it may be?
All right. Well, if you want to hear more of these corny dad jokes, go on over to YouTube, type in the War Rapport. We have a good time over there. Our Building Rapport series is on fire right now, man. So we're interviewing everybody. We had a great talk with Jeff Graba from Auburn Gymnastics. He talked about why Auburn is got the target on their back with SUNY Lee. So everybody wants to beat us with SUNY because we are the joint out here. And these interviews are so much fun. We're bringing you guys that. Please support our content. Subscribe. Help us. We just hit 10,000. Zach, you're about to hit 10,000. Hopefully.
We did it while we were recording this.
Oh, my goodness. Amazing. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you, buddy.
Looking forward to the next 10,000. So when we hit 20,000 and take over the universe.
That's right.
I'm looking forward to it. So
that's right.
Please subscribe.
Yep. Give them some love for sure. You can find all my written work at auburndaily.com. Tune in tomorrow, a little Cruton Thursday headed your way. This has been Locked On Auburn.